To get the new generation's opinion, I interviewed 6 first graders about their experiences at the zoo. When I asked them if they liked the zoo and why, 5 out of 6 said they do, but only because they got a treat or got to play on the playground. When I asked them if they thought zoos are good to have, 2 out of 6 brought up that it can be harsh to keep large animals in cages.
Yeah, because, well, I'm not sure because all the animals get trapped and they don't get to be living free and doing what they should be doing.
When I asked them if they have ever learned anything from the zoo, only 2 out of 6 answered with an actual fact.
I seen a swan and the wings can span to 10 feet.
What animal?
The swan.
Oh, wow.
Crabs are the tallest land animal.
When asked what the purpose of zoos are, 2 of them answered while the other 4 did not know.
You get to learn some cool facts sometimes and you get to see lots and lots and lots of animals.
When asked about the purpose, none of them included the fact that zoos are supposed to help hurt or endangered animals in order to improve the overall ecosystem. Although these are just first graders, many people don't realize that the way animals are treated inside zoos affect the world in which we rely on. All around the world, zoos are operating with little to no regulations and are putting entertainment wants over the needs of preservation. All animals play a key factor in our biodiversity, and since humans depend on a healthy ecosystem to purify the environment, animals cannot be continually disrespected. Predicting the consequences, this includes the loss of clean air and water, the removal of healthy forests and oceans, the deepening of the impact of extreme weather conditions, and even hurting the ability to grow food. Determining its relevance, a life without a healthy ecosystem means no life. A great start to turn around the repercussions we have made on the environment is with the Association of Zoos and Aquariums Accreditation Standards. This association provides improved regulations that one has to implement before getting accredited.
The number one priority of accreditation is animal welfare, animal wellness. So everything kind of revolves around that. In accreditation, they look at everything in the operation of the zoo. They look at animal care, they look at the veterinary program, the safety and security, they look at our financial stability, our governance. There really isn't our education programs. There's nothing they don't look at. So they'll come in for a couple of days for an inspection team of 4 people. They'll talk to my boss. They'll talk to 1 or 2 park board members. They'll talk to 1 or 2 friends of the zoo board members. They will talk to staff. There'll be an elephant expert on the group. It's extremely important for us to be accredited, and we go through that process every 5 years. From the public standpoint, it's their assurance that we're operating according to the highest professional standards. Accreditation is an extremely rigorous process, and standards are very high, and they get the standards change all the time. So every 5 years, we have to see what the new we have to keep up with what the changes in the standards are, and so that we continue to adhere to those.
Only 10% of all current zoos are able to meet these specific requirements. Drawing conclusions, this shows the lack of effort we have given to preserve our environment. After visiting the unaccredited Promised Land Zoo in Branson, Missouri, and having done my service learning at the accredited Dickerson Park Zoo in Springfield, Missouri, I will compare and contrast the differences I noticed from a public space. The Branson Zoo is both a walkthrough and drive-through, while the Springfield Zoo is only walkthrough. During my service learning, I helped the keepers take care of their designated species and learn the process of maintaining general welfare of animals, as well as spending time at the animal hospital learning how they take care of the animal's health and the relation of welfare. This relates to my research project as I go further into detail about the importance of welfare, as well as other parts of zoo's purpose. This is important as it is one factor I'll be looking at in my gamma, and the other one being educational efforts. The first animal I will be looking at is the giraffe. For giraffes, social interactions are an important part of maintaining stress levels. They are known to be social animals living with herds around 10 to 20 individuals. At the Promised Land Zoo, the biggest thing that stood out to me was that there was only one giraffe in the exhibit. With what we know about their natural habitats, this condition does not take that into consideration. Even though it did not have any companions, there was no additional stimulation toy or even a water or rock feature to give it anything to do. Secondly are the tigers and lions. Less than 400 of the estimated 5,000 to 7,000 captive tigers in the U.S. are held at facilities accredited by the AZA. All large cats are territorial and require their own space. Enclosures should therefore be as large as possible. This is especially true for adult tigers, which are solitary. They love being in the water as it allows their warm bodies to cool off. The tiger and lion at the Promised Land Zoo are housed together, which is the exact opposite of their usual living conditions. Additionally, the exhibit gives little space to roam. It does not only have rocks covering most of the ground, but it does not provide an additional feature. The lion and tiger should not be housed together in any area, and you can tell the attempt to recreate their natural environment failed. The alligator is another frequent animal one sees at the zoo. As many know, they usually live in freshwater and slow-moving rivers. Last year, a trainer got bit when feeding an alligator that she'd fed hundreds of times. Thankfully, she was able to recover, but this story shows the great amount of caution and security needed for alligators in zoo enclosures.
You can see the handler, Lindsay Bull, open the door to the enclosure. The alligator lunges forward and she pulls the animal back. Then it suddenly snaps its mouth and her hand gets caught in its grip. She's then dragged into the water. A bystander, identified as Donnie Weissman, rushes in and jumps on the alligator's back. Look at that. After what feels like a long, tense few minutes, Bull is finally freed from the alligator's grip. She was taken to the hospital but didn't have any serious injuries.
In the Promised Land Zoo, the alligator exhibit was a dangerous enclosure. First of all, it was only about 4.5 feet tall and has an area that opens to see the animals. It would be so easy for a kid to be dropped out of somebody's hands or to be climbing the wall and fall inside. The two main issues I have is how unalike their exhibits match up with their natural habitats, as well as if their behaviors in the wild were being met in captivity. All throughout the zoo, the surface was primarily made of rocks. Right away, I knew this wasn't humane when I saw that the cows had pushed through a fence where the electrical box was. This incident occurred all because their ground was covered in rocks instead of grass. With the correct ground covering, these cows would not have had to search for this tree and potentially get hurt. The other issue present in most enclosures was the lack of sufficient space for activity and stimulation. With the understanding that zoos cannot fully provide the same amount of space as animals have in their natural habitat, I think that the Promised Land Zoo does not even take that into consideration. There were other small issues I noticed while visiting this non-accredited zoo. This includes a lack of health, trash inside the enclosures, safety, precaution signs and up-to-date fences, and educational signs, including their natural habitat, manners, and conservational facts, were very scarce. To me, it looked, smelled, and felt more like a non-well-kept farm rather than a zoo that practices animal welfare and education. To show the contrast between non-accredited zoos and accredited zoos, I will now be showing the Dickerson Park Zoo, the organization I spent my time service learning. In showing the Dickerson Park Zoo, I will solve the problems previously shown by the Branson Zoo. The accreditation of the Springfield Zoo shows how much better it focuses on animal welfare and education.
Our core mission is saving wildlife. So by people coming to the zoo, they make a connection to animals, and we hope that eventually translates into action to save wildlife.
The first animal I will be using to show the more adequate conditions is the giraffe. To start off, the Springfield Zoo giraffe exhibit consists of 5 giraffes in total. This means that their normal social interactions are being met, as it is an important part of their survival. This also solves the problems of not having any stimulation toys because those needs are being met through interactions. I also learned that one of the giraffes came to the zoo because one of its horns was wounded, showing that Dickerson does make it a priority to help injured animals. Secondly are the big cats. The tiger and lions are separated in our zoo, as they should be. In addition to having separate exhibits, they have way more space and features according to their needs. There are 2 lions in one exhibit, but they have sufficient space, grass covering the ground, and a water feature that connects their wild actions to their recreated habitat. As for the single tiger, its solitary needs are met and it has more abundant amount of space to roam, as well as a water feature option, toys, and other obstacles included. Next is the alligator. The alligator exhibit is distinctly dissimilar from the one in Branson. This enclosure does not provide any way for a child to accidentally get into it and is secured on every side. Dickerson did a great job with replicating exhibits as closely as a zoo can possibly do for the animals.
Yes, all zoos try to replicate habitats. Obviously, we can't do it exactly like where they come from. So an animal that's from tropical South America, we're not going to be able to recreate that in our climate. So I guess the more correct term would be naturalistic environment. It may not completely replicate, but we try to give guests a sense of what the habitat might be like.
With that, the ground is made up of what each animal's habitat consists of. Lions and tigers live in grasslands, so they supplied with grounds made up of grass. This is also true for the monkeys, turtles, and swans who mostly live in the water. The second point is the understanding of space required. When just looking through the glass, visitors can see the ample amount of space given for each species, which directly correlates with how they live in the wild. It shows the care and consideration they have for not only the surface area space, but the quality of it too. There are toys, options for social interactions for those who need it, and rock or water features to improve survival, maintain stress levels, and create stimulation. The other previous issues, such as health issues, lack of security, and education issues pertaining animal welfare and education, were not able to be seen here. Health promotion was superior as it was clean, had no littering, and it did not smell bad. Another part is safety. Unlike the Branson Zoo, bright safety precaution signs are also placed at every exhibit telling visitors what not to do. Here, sturdy fences are kept up to date, especially for larger animals, and don't have any danger precautions.
Safety is really a big part of what we do. We are accredited by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and they consider safety extremely high priority. Safety of the animal collection, safety of the people that take care of the animals, safety of the guests that come to the zoo.
In the education aspect, efforts are clearly shown by the Dickerson Park Zoo.
Well, education is a part of conservation. So we try to have a conservation message in all of the education programs we do. We do programs at the zoo in the classroom. We do them out in the zoo with informal, up-close experiences with live animals that our volunteers take out. We go out within about a 200-mile radius of the zoo. We recently revised our guidelines and to improve the welfare of the animals, so we don't allow animals to be out overnight. So we kind of limit it to about a 200-mile radius and about a 12-hour day. The education program's an important part of what we do to try to save wildlife.
In addition, there are so many more educational signs that grab the attention of visitors. They were very interesting but also easy to remember. There are signs stating the location of every animal's habitat and fun facts about the species. Almost each animal has a sign that tells about current conservation efforts. These facts are important for people to know to realize the reality of how many animals we have lost. Shown by the conservation signs at the giraffe exhibit, there are only 80,000 of them left. These facts might actually stand out to the public and get them thinking about what they can do to help these animals survive. Things like these are an important part that zoos should have to implement in their organization. The Dickerson Park Zoo was not only a better kept and clean zoo, it showed a true resemblance of the AZA's mission and requirements in order to create a better biodiversity and help species survival. Through zoos that are accredited like the Dickerson Park Zoo, we can turn our environment back around before it's too late. If possible, we can still have a healthy ecosystem for all living organisms in consideration.